My third child literally flew out of me. I experienced fetal ejection reflex, and it was one of the most empowering moments of my life, so I wanted to share it. Unfortunately, I had a high-risk third pregnancy, and that meant everything that I wanted for my third birth was changed. My first two births were very traditional hospital births. I had epidurals. My boys both got stuck with shoulder dystocia, and so they were a bit traumatic. But this time I was going to have this amazing redemptive birth center birth led by a midwife and a doula by my side, hanging from, the fabrics, birthing in a pool, all of the things. But at the 20-week scan, we found out that our baby was IUGR, intrauterine growth restricted. And so we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, but they were measuring under the 3rd percentile. And the doctors were very concerned. They were like, you guys are both relatively tall people, and your boys were huge. I mean, 70th percentile and 99th percentile. So we didn't make petite babies. They worry if you're less than 10%, and we were less than the 5th percentile. So they were concerned, and they sent us to a genetic specialist, and they talked about, abnormalities and possibilities and things that baby might have. We chose not to do any extra testing on baby and just kept going with the pregnancy. I had to do lots of extra monitoring though, which I happily went in to do. We did 2 to 3 times a week on machines, checking baby heart rate and amniotic fluid and all of that stuff. I got kicked out of my birth center, and I say kicked out because that's how it felt in the appointment. So then I had to find a whole new care provider over halfway through my pregnancy. My doula had suggested that I try something called hypnobabies, and I am the least woo-woo person. It is not something I thought I would ever be talking about, but I was so desperate to have a different birth experience that I was like, it doesn't matter. We're going to try this. We're going to go all in. We're not going to say that the program didn't work because we didn't try, right? We meaning me and the baby. I don't know. So from about 28 weeks on, I want to say, I was studying. I had worksheets and notebooks, and we had to do, so I thought it was all about like mindfulness and meditation, and it's not. It's affirmations. It's putting yourself into self-hypnosis, which if you're like, what the hell is self-hypnosis? It's relaxation. There's something called a finger drop, and you did this, and you basically put yourself into this extreme state of relaxation. Think when you're driving and you don't realize how far you've gone or where you are or what's happening because you're so dissociated and relaxed. You're doing that, but in a safe place, like laying in your bed, so that you can get a hold of like these huge, heavy, painful contractions that we normally think of. Basically, you're trying to get your body to relax so much that those contractions don't overtake you and you don't feel the same amount of pain. Not only was I high risk, but I was trying something brand new that I had no idea if it was going to work, but the stories were amazing. And I didn't think I would have a pain-free birth. Some people do. I just wanted to have coping tools. That was the main thing I wanted because I felt so underprepared. So I hired a doula. I did my hypno babies, and I went to all of my appointments and was just so hopeful that I was not going to have to be induced because I knew that Pitocin contractions would be different. Thankfully, at around 34, 36 weeks, I graduated. Baby had grown, was still quite small, maybe 7th percentile, maybe we got to 11th. I can't remember now. It's written down somewhere. But baby had grown. We still didn't know what it was. Baby had grown so much that I graduated from needing an induction at like 39 weeks. I spent my entire fall thinking I'm going to have a baby early in December. I'm going to have a baby at Christmas. I'm going to be holding my baby at Christmas, to having a baby 4 days after Christmas on December 29th. I was due on the 23rd and she was late. She was taking her time, and then we were letting her cook, and then we were talking about induction on the other end of the spectrum. We get to Saturday night. My husband and I go to a movie. My mom and dad are watching. Our sons, they're like, go to a movie. It's the holiday week in between Christmas and New Year, and they're like, okay, go to this. And I come home after watching this movie, and I'm just so emotional and I'm so upset, and I'm like, I should have known. You get really emotional before you're about to give birth. I think it was about 11 p.m. and I felt this pop in my belly, 2 pops, and they made a noise. I swear to you, I was like, my water broke. I've never had my water break. I knew it. I knew it in that second. It felt like, and I could hear it. So I lay there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. I go to the bathroom. Sure enough, there's some liquid coming out, but the problem was there was meconium in it, so baby had pooped in the womb, and that was coming out too, so it was discolored, which isn't great. I messaged my doula, and she's like, just chill, lay for a little bit, do your hypnosis tapes, all that. We tell my mom. Meanwhile, my mom comes over because she's like, my third baby came in like half an hour. You need to go to the hospital now. And I'm like, oh, Mom, my labors were 31 hours and 12 hours from like the beginning, not like all active labor, but 31 hours and 12 hours. I'm like, I don't see this baby coming that fast. So I lay for a little bit. And then finally we're like, okay, well, we'll just go. She's here. She's here for the boys. We'll just go. We'll go. So we get in the car and I'm doing my tapes and I'm chill. I'm chill in the car. I'm listening to my birth affirmations and early labor affirmations and all this. And I'm relaxed. We get to the check-in area and I'm leaning on the wall and I'm like, dang, they're starting to feel something. Still trying to keep relaxed. If this is loose, down there is loose. I was thinking about that a lot, let me tell you. So Ian's checking us in and I'm just like, whew. Oh, these are getting fun, right? Trying to be a little positive. Go to the bathroom. They're like, can you change into these clothes? I said, no. My birth is a masterclass in saying no to things you don't want at the hospital. That is one of the best things Hypnobabies gave me. For real. I felt empowered to say no and have the birth I wanted. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be inconsiderate. You don't have to make things extra hard and difficult for the staff, but you can simply say no to things. That is okay. And I didn't know that with my first two births, literally had to be told. So I say no to getting into a gown and I say no to getting hooked up to an IV. I think they checked me. I wasn't very far, but they could tell that I needed to stay. And I was like, oh, good. I was like, are they going to let me stay? Oh, yeah. They could tell I was in deep labor. And then they're like, well, okay, if you're not going to, and I was like, I don't want to be hooked up to anything if I can help it. And the nurse, the sweet, kind nurse, she held the monitor up to my belly as I sat on a ball and rocked and breathed. And she monitored that baby in such a great way. I wish everyone to have a nurse like that. My husband, I asked him, I said, why am I not getting a break? Ian, you're supposed to get a break between contractions, which to be fair, all my contractions have always been when I'm in active labor, they're on top of each other. He's like, that just means you're close to meeting baby. He apparently looked at the nurse like, I don't know what to say because we didn't know, but they were on top of each other. I had a weird sensation, a weird feeling. And I think that was transition, this whole body shuddering, shaking, but it was so quick. And it's so funny because in my other two births, all I could think about was how am I going to get past transition? And when I actually felt transition, it wasn't that terrible. It was just a bizarre, different sort of contraction. We'd probably been there for 30, 45 minutes now. I'm not sure. But I said, oh, I better go to the bathroom because I remember in my Hypnobabies work that you're supposed to go to the bathroom every hour. That's really helpful to sit on the toilet. So I'm going to go. She checks me before I go and I'm at 5 centimeters. I'm like, okay, great, progress. So I go sit on the toilet. I feel baby's head click into place in my pelvis. It goes, chuk chuk. And I come out and I say the baby's coming. And she's like, no, honey, you were just at 5 centimeters. I don't think so. I'm like, this baby's coming. And I start groaning like that cow sound, really deep. And I climb up onto the bed. And the OB comes in and she's like, can you get on your back? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, okay, how about your side? I said, great. Look at compromise. And I pushed my baby out in 3 pushes on my side. It felt so good to push. It wasn't even painful. After those contractions, pushing was a relief. I don't know how the OB got there in time. My doula didn't make it. She came a few minutes after because she didn't think I'd go that quickly. My birth photographer didn't make it. I will never forget how empowering it was to climb up that bed and feel my baby just coming out on her own. And all I had to do was kind of assist her, but she was in charge. Afterwards, I just held my baby. My hubby cut the cord and then my placenta got sucked, but I'm not going to go into that. I had a manual placenta extraction. Most painful thing ever. I don't like to share that with the birth story because the birth story was so wonderful and that was not. My entire labor was precipitous, which means it was under 3 hours at 2.5 hours. And it was one of the absolute best experiences of my life.